Nap and Charles were dealing. "You guys from that program?" one of the young men asked. He immediately relaxed and grinned. That program was offering a transition to a new life. 18 months of a legitimate job and paycheck, with about 10 hours of behavioral therapy woven in each week. The job was what interested him most. "What I got to do to get in?" another asked. Just as Knapp was starting his spiel, Johnny's door swung open. A short, confident young man with bright eyes emerged. He was wearing a Superman t-shirt and fitted black sweatpants, lean and well-built, like the track athlete he'd once been. A little girl about 2 years old followed him out. "Sorry," he said. "We were sleeping." Johnny's brother used to run the mob on the block, but he'd been shot and killed a month before by a rival crew. Now Johnny was Lil Chief. He looked us up and down. "What's going on?" As his daughter rode her tricycle up and down the sidewalk, Knapp and Charles gave him the pitch on a new life. If they could get Johnny in, with his cred and charisma, other men would follow. And, they hoped, the program would lower the risk that Johnny's crew would retaliate against their rivals. Later on, Knapp would say, "Did you see how those young men gathered around him like that?" Megan and I nodded. "That's what a chief looks like." 3 weeks later, walking home from a day of manual labor at his new job, a car pulled up. Lil Chief took 16 bullets to his right arm, chest, and legs. Fortunately, his old track training kicked in. Johnny managed to sprint to safety in a corner store, bleeding from 16 places all over the tile floor. Amazingly, he lived. But Johnny couldn't escape his war. Why? Why were groups of young men like him embroiled in gun-wielding feuds, killing over and over and over again? What could a couple of old guys like Knapp and Charles, let alone an outsider like me, do about it? These weren't questions I'd ever expected to ask or answer. But once you witness the cruel extravagance of violence, it's hard to care about anything else, even when you see it from a position of safety with the privilege of distance. Everything else fades in importance. Almost 2 decades ago, that's what happened to me. Why violence matters. Before the war came, a drive across northern Uganda took you over dry, dusty dirt roads, through miles of swaying grass taller than your head. Green when the rains came, brown when they didn't. The long stalks waved endlessly over flat, arid plains, interrupted only by the occasional trading post or pasture. Most Acholi families, farmers and herders by profession, lived in clusters of circular huts with smooth mud walls and conical thatch roofs in the midst of their fields of maize and cattle. This area of the country, Acholi land, once held more cows than people. It must have been beautiful. By the time I landed in the north, the grasses were still there, but the cows, the crops, and the picturesque huts were long gone. A civil war had raged for almost 2 decades. Fear of rebels and the Ugandan army had pushed those families, almost 2 million people, into dense camps no more than a few miles from their empty and overgrown lands. The camps were filled with the same round brown homes with the same thatch roofs. But now, instead of idyllic homesteads nestled among greenery and livestock, there were thousands upon thousands of huts laid out on brown, bare earth, baking in the sun, cramped together so tightly that you needed to crouch to pass between their eaves. These were places of despair. The government had cleared the countryside of people and thrust them into these squalid settlements. It made it easier for soldiers to hunt for rebels and harder for insurgents to steal food and supplies.